What a ride. That is one of the things that is the power of a story of Holy Week, moving from Palm Sunday into Easter Sunday. What a colossal week of the human condition. Everything from the elation of Jesus riding in on a donkey in peace, while the generals of Rome ride in on a war horse, challenging their approach, their assumptions, their way of taking the world by storm. Being heralded by his own people as the anointed king, the anointed heir of David, the promised one to fulfill these hopes, to liberate us from the power of Rome, set up our kingdom, and establish us forever. Record scratch. Then comes Maundy Thursday. Jesus celebrates the Passover, the central story of the people of Israel, from their liberation from slavery in Egypt, walking through the dry land of the Red Sea, into the wilderness, wandering around, having to learn things because we all have to, but receiving the covenant of Torah through Moses on Mount Sinai, forever sealing a covenant with them as the people of God. This is a celebration. Oh no, it couldn't just be that. Jesus knew what was going to happen. He knew, and he had told his disciples several times, I will be betrayed. I will be given over to those in authority, and I will be killed. And of course, his disciples were like, Jesus, what are you talking about? That's not going to happen. And he said, okay, I warned you. And what does he do? That last night in the Gospel of John, he gives his last lesson to his disciples. Those of you who have been here for the other services, what did he teach us? Serve. How? Good? Oh, no, you did this. Oh, I'm sorry.
Foot washing.
Foot washing. Foot washing. The role of the lowest of the low. It's bad enough when we wash our feet in the 21st century. I won't go into detail, but feet were really, really gnarly in the early church, in the first century. Jesus is trying to help them understand what his kingdom is all about. It is not about the power that Rome wields. It is not about violent conquest. It is not about terroristic murders in the temple to undermine the authority of the temple or to undermine the authority of Rome. No, this is a kingdom of love, of service. And the disciples say, death before dishonor. We will never abandon you. He gets arrested, and what happens? Boom! Exactly. They go elsewhere. Why? Because I would probably do the same thing if I had to deal with that. Do you really want to risk being crucified? Of course not. It still hurt. It still was a betrayal. Mark's gospel has Jesus on the cross, on his own, abandoned by everyone, even saying, my God, why have you forsaken me? The despair of that moment. The despair of his disciples going, oh no, he's not the Messiah after all, because he got executed for treason, of course. Not the end of the story either. They scatter, they hide. They sit in the darkness of Saturday wondering, what are we going to do now? We have dedicated our entire lives and our hopes, and some of them their finances, to this experience, to this movement. And it is crushed under the weight of Rome's violent conquest. We sit in silence, in despair, in fear. Then one little flame. Suddenly there's light in that tube. Suddenly that despair, that pain, that horror, that hopelessness begins to be ousted by the light of the resurrected Christ. God has said, you will not be kept down by death. Resurrection is yours. Because new life, new resurrection is what God is calling us to. They felt the cataclysmic earthquake that shook the entire foundations of how they understood what Jesus was trying to do. But we had to go through that to get to what God is trying to build. Now, resurrected life is more than just Jesus rising from the dead. It's a new understanding. It's an expanded understanding that has overcome the worst of who we are. The church right now is at a wonderful crossroads because the world is changing dramatically. The way we've understood how church is supposed to be cannot stay that way forever because we follow a tradition that is built around death and rebirth, dying and expanding and being brought to fuller life. And that is the gift of this day. We celebrate that we have undergone seismic shifts, collapse of our assumptions, and being invited by God into a celebration of a new life, a bigger life. And the kingdom that Jesus has built is not political. It is not by military conquest. It is one that transcends all of these things because it is built on unconditional love. Love God, love your neighbor, love yourself. All the kingdoms of the world can be found in that way of being. All the peoples of the world are united in the beautiful diversity that we have because the way of love is the way of that kingdom. We get to celebrate the opportunity to allow God to breathe God's Spirit into our lives in new ways that could not happen if God worked the way we always expect God to work. He did not fail when he was crucified. He just didn't do things the way we thought he was going to do them. And thanks be to God that he did not. Because what we have is more than what would have been if he had done what we thought he would do. And that is why we get to say on this day, Hallelujah, Christ is risen.
Hallelujah, Christ is risen indeed.
Excellent. Let's do that again. Hallelujah, Christ is risen.
Hallelujah, Christ is risen indeed.
Thanks be to God for the power, the supremacy of love, the supremacy of healing, the supremacy of reconciliation, the supremacy of building bridges where they have been burned, the supremacy of curiosity about our beloved siblings in the world, the beauty, the supremacy of joy that can never be overcome by death, because death never has the final word. That word is life. That life is found in the way of love. Blessings to you on this Easter Sunday. And may we go forth as we leave today, meditating, celebrating, and marinating even in the joy and the gift of the power of that indomitable love. Amen.